Because firstly, China doesn't want to get hyphenated with India. The world famous newspapers and all, they buy it off, they give them money so that there is no anti-China articles there. People's Republic of China was formed in October 1949. The invasion of Tibet took place in October 1950. So India had 3 years, 2 months lead over China to consolidate her borders. Which country in the annals of the world history, a nation which has become independent after centuries of slavery, has not consolidated her international borders by sending troops and forces? If there is any country in the world, unbelievable but true, it is India. So with Trump, he was partly successful. Now coming to India, it was an initiation for a regime change using the instruments which are available in the Indian government, within the Indian constitution, to actually weaken the regime and make the man Modi very powerless, dysfunctional and helpless. So what is the best time? So the main targets were certain countries. Collateral damage will be the whole world. That China doesn't mind. The 18th of October 1958, India sent an informal note to the Chinese ambassador in Delhi, informal note, telling that your highway from Tibet to Xinjiang passes through our territory. Our famous brains of South Plot write this letter on 8th November, a note that yes, we agree that area is a disputed territory which we can deal separately. Firstly, when your Johnson's line is 100 kilometers to the east of Gurnat Fort, you yourself is telling that it is a disputed territory when China says it is their own territory. So who has added and given it a nomenclature of dispute? The calumny of the British, which they left by keeping such a big mess around us, has ensured that this country will be in war, in a crucible of hostility for perpetuity. But what we have done is our troops are already mountain trained. I don't think a person in Beijing, what we call central region or northern region or eastern region will be any match to our Pakistan. If Pakistan could bring together in Nixon's time, USA and China together, why can't you at this point of time?
Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. I have with me Lieutenant General PG Kamath, who's going to talk to us about why did the Chinese actually come to Ladakh. Lieutenant General PG Kamath, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, SM, who retired as the Commandant, Army War College, spent a long, illustrious career in the Indian Army. During his career, he commanded an infantry battalion at the line of control during the peak of insurgency in 93 to 95. He also commanded an infantry brigade during Operation Parakram and an infantry division with an operational role in the Run of Kutch. His large repertoire of staff appointments includes a tenure as a defense advisor to the Indian High Commission in Malaysia, the significant position of the additional military secretary at the army headquarters, and a chief of staff at a command headquarters. Today, he writes, he speaks, and his opinions are much sought after as they are very clear and balanced about the national security of this country. Thank you, sir, for joining me this afternoon to have this chat.
Thank you, Aadi.
Sir, you've written a very interesting article, and as I was just telling you offline, that one thing caught my eye, and we've all tried to wonder why did actually Chinese come to Ladakh? What were their reasoning? Why did they choose this particular time? So on that subject, so the first question that I'd like to ask you is, how do you think the decision was taken to push in, take a military push against India, and what do you think they were looking for strategically, sir?
Okay. Aadi, any military action has to have a political intent. Politics by other means is military. War by other means is politics. It's highly interconnected. Without a political aim, you don't go in for a military objective. There are a number of theories which are floating around. Why did they do it? They say they wanted to teach us a lesson as they did it in 1962. Second, they say someone has written to assert their superiority over you. Then they are telling that Darbut Short DBO road has been constructed very close to the LAC. It is threatening them. Then they are also telling the hectic preparation of the bridge on Short, 430 meters, which was built in a record timings. Then they're also telling overall infrastructure which has been built since 2014 after the present regime has come in Arunachal, here in the Ladakh sector overall. And some are also guessing it might be because we are going very close to the United States of America, which China really doesn't want. It wants a bilateral, a subordinate. India should have a relationship with them. And also, one more thing is to play for their domestic audience prior to their centenary of the birth of Communist Party of China. They want to show Xi, what a great leader, the core leader, the next only to Mao Zedong. And he wants to be that in that preeminence. And lastly, they say is the declaration of Union Territory of Ladakh and the publication of map, which includes the entire Achaikin as our area. These are the possible causes for which the conflict has taken place. Meanwhile, I heard like your thoughts, there have been number of thoughts held where they are telling at what level the decision was taken. Some have even come down to that is a military exuberant, ebullient general who has just shot off in order to rise himself in the hierarchy of Communist Party of China. That must be the Lanzhou military commander who actually has a border from the Lipu Lake and right up to includes the Western Mongolia. Some say it could be the Western Command Theater commander, who actually is the biggest in front of us, who has the entire Indo-China border. He has got Bhutan as well. He has got Nepal as well. He has got POK. He has got the Walking Corridor of Afghanistan. He has got the what it call Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. That border, and a small 50-kilometer stretch of border with Russia and the entire Western Mongolia. He is the theater commander. He has got an entire Chengdu region and the Lanzhou region under him, and he is the one who did this. So there are a number of theories which are really floating around. But what I really feel is it is not at that level, it is the highly political level. Because firstly, China doesn't want to get hyphenated with India. When you say India and China are two great powers in the region, it says no. I am 5 times larger than him, 4.5 times his GNP, and you are equating me with him. If I meet Modi, it is on my own terms, not because Modi is equivalent to me. And hence, he wants to show that the ruling regime has to be put in place in India. Earlier, it was a very, very comfortable location. Now, what does the China's main strategy is to undermine the other countries which are its competitors. How does it undermine? Let's take the case of United States of America. There is a liberal democracy. It has penetrated skin deep into the liberal democracy by using the institutions which is not there in his own country, but utilizing the institution of freedom of press, the judicial system, the education system, the financial system, the patenting laws, and a free flow of information, which is available in United States of America to undermine their own regime. Now, for example, they buy the cinema houses, which are production units, and see that there is no anti-China, what you call movies, which are published there. They buy the bigger world famous newspapers and all. They buy it off. They give them money so that there is no anti-China articles there. They penetrate their education system, do a lot of research and steal technology. They acquire their technological industries and factories, and along with it, the technology flows back into China. stealing the technology and robbing and also thieving their patents and having their own patents after doing all this. So it has really come into United States in such a big way. I cannot undermine, I cannot discount the Trump regime change which has happened is also due to certain factors for which China is responsible. Whereas USA blindly does it by application of military force in Operation Iraqi Freedom and all. These fellows do no such thing. They penetrate into a liberal democracy, undermine the same government, and see that whatever his opponents and all are given, fed with the whatever resources, the money, the corruption, crime, bribe, whatever you want to call it, and then undermine. That's exactly the Chinese game plan all over the world. Now, coming to India, what is it? Now, let us look at the UPA regime. Congress has ruled over a large part of time the India. And now look at the UPA regime. When the UPA regime was there, please, I'm not talking of politics. I'm talking of facts. There was a MOU between the Communist Party of China and Congress Party. So look at the MOU. So in that way, they ensured, and they also funded the RGF, Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, whose main trustees are from the leaders of the Congress, in order to say that they will never take any decision inimical to China within India. So they have already got that. See, why I am telling you with so much of conviction is when the 2008 MOU was signed. Xi Jinping was a smaller functionary; he was not the head, and he was a member of the CPC, a high member of the CPC, and Sonia Gandhi. The photograph came out where Rajiv Gandhi and another person from the CPC signing the memorandum of understanding. Why was it not divulged? If it was all free, fair, and in the interest of the nation, do you have to keep it a secret? See, it was kept a secret. That makes the entire world believe there was something in it. And Xi Jinping was very, very happy with the UPA regime because he had and his funding of the RGF and all ensured that India will not take any adversarial, what you call, steps against China. Now comes 2014. Modi, good or bad, that's a different matter. I'm not talking. The NDA regime, when it came, the clout which the Chinese had over the Indian government reduced drastically. Though there were some bureaucrats, many bureaucrats in the deep state who do things, as per their what we call deep state, which is embedded, might be due to many other reasons like incentives or whatever. I will not talk about it because obviously I do not have the facts and figures with me. So, how to strike this regime? How to strike this NDA regime? It has to be made weaken the regime. So, first now there was a pandemic USA, pandemic India, pandemic in Japan, pandemic in the European Union, entirely devastated the world economies. The citizens of the world were dying like fireflies. A pandemic which originated in China in the Wuhan. And more or less now we are very sure it is a laboratory oriented on manufactured what you call a pandemic virus, which has actually spread across the world. It has destroyed families, destroyed society. 4 billion have been affected. So, what is the best time? So, the main targets were certain countries. Collateral damage will be the whole world that China doesn't mind. And this is the time he saw and launched that offensive against Ladakh. It came very quietly as an annual exercise. As per the 2013 Border Defense Cooperation Agreement, they are supposed to tell us that there is an exercise. After having the routine exercise, suddenly the exercise stopped and they came and occupied all the no man's land and came what we call eyeball to eyeball with the Indian forces by capturing the no man's land. It is to weaken the regime, to show the present regime of ours. It is I am making a very, very responsible statement, but quite explosive. It was with the intent to do a launched to initiate the regime change in India to show more, and also state elections were starting. So this is the time, the pandemic, it has really ravaged the country, and elections are going to be held, and that is the time we'll show him in poor light. Here we go into this one. Otherwise, there was just no reason for them to go. Huh? So it is a prelude to a 2024 general elections which is taking place. A huge trees there. Chance that with the termites you weaken the main trunk, that is the state elections. Then, as the another next UP elections, again the pandemic is on, the war is still there. India has probably been not been able to cope up with the Chinese aggression, show the entire regime in poor light. And as it is, when the economy is devastated, a poor country like India, obviously the lower the margins in the lower middle class and lower class are actually looking at their economic empowerment and do not have a higher visions. So in order, so with Trump, he was partly successful. Now coming to India, it was an initiation for a regime change using the instruments which are available in the Indian government, within the Indian constitution, to actually weaken the regime and make the man Modi very powerless, dysfunctional, and helpless. And that is the state it wanted. Otherwise, Ladakh offensive at this point of time, when China itself is under cloud due to everyone blaming it for pandemic, that was not the real time to really go in and start a war with India when there are quite active Eastern Pacific seaboard of China is quite active already with 3 aircraft carriers, with the French aircraft carrier there, with the HMS Elizabeth there, a German frigate has come out there. Is this the time? So that was with a absolutely what you call a strategic aim was to undermine the ruling party with a long-term aim by 2024 to see that the power and the pelf and the popularity of the present regime gets denuded. So that is my way of looking at it. Now coming to why we always see in India, let's say the prime minister meets the generals or the chiefs very infrequently. Rather, I don't know. He must be dealing one or CDS. I doubt. He generally deals knowing the present structure. He deals with the NSA and probably the Ministry of External Affairs and probably the Raksha Mantri. Whereas there, all senior party members of the military, of the People's Liberation Army, are the members of the Communist Party, senior members of the Communist Party. So when the Politburo meets or some other senior members meet, there are military leaders already within the party. So the confabulation between the military leadership and the political leadership in China is much more easygoing, much more frequent, and much more coordinated than a dysfunctional democracy where you find we are civilians, we are separate, we take the political decisions. These are security guys. They will not. The chiefs are not a part of the cabinet committee on security, and all these things are they are not encumbered with these what you call with these constructions which is there in a liberal democracy. Then coming to the oath of loyalty which Chinese president took to everyone in the Politburo and senior Congress leader, he took a oath of loyalty. Oath of loyalty is just to tell you, it is only means we'll sacrifice my all for the party and the people and never betray the party. There is nothing of the nation there. So they are all working for the party. They are the members of the same party and members of the instrument of the party, that is the PLA. So the coordination, what is taking place, actually, when you say party, it is Xi Jinping. He is worried that I will be there for life, so don't go against me. So with this, I want to tell you, it was a political motive, political intent to beat the regime, decision taken at the highest level, Xi Jinping. The cover plan was the routine exercise from which they used to carry out every year, which they informed us. And at certain point of time, they came and occupied their 1959 LAC, as they called.
I must say, so when you actually compare both the situations between India and USA, one does see a sort of a similar line that both the countries have walked on in terms of being an adversary to China, because they are using our system against us. Matter of fact, I'd like to add very shamefully, but one of our leading newspapers has a double-page spread ad congratulating the CCP, which is printed in India and one of the oldest newspapers. Mighty
Exactly.
congratulations.
And also, they are propping up the political opposition.
Yes.
They are within the country. They are propping them up. Here you go. Without a national aim, with the, with the, what you call, intent, national interest not being there.
Interesting. So you mentioned at the last part of your answer, the 1959 line. There has been a lot of discussion on this. A lot of people, uh, biggest thing is people don't even recognize this line because, well, we perceive it to be somewhere, they perceive it to be somewhere else, and this and that. Leaving all that aside, so I'd like to ask you, what are the origins of this 1959 line? What is the history behind this, and why are they asking for it right now?
Yes, Adi, I'll tell you what happened. One thing which I might have told you in the previous, but I want to reiterate because whoever has heard, will be listening to us, has to hear this. We became independent in August 47. People's Republic of China was formed in October 1949. The invasion of Tibet took place in October 1950. So India had 3 years, 2 months lead over China to consolidate her borders. Which country in the annals of the world history, a nation which has become independent after centuries of slavery, has not consolidated her international borders by sending troops and forces, is, if there is any country in the world, unbelievable but true, it is India. For 3 years and 2 months, we did not consolidate our borders. Now, the very idea that is being flaunted by China that your jurisdiction was not there. It is the half possession is half the jurisdiction. When you did not have troops, how do you claim it is yours? See, it is simple. No other things are needed because you did not come. So that was our defensive state of mind, a legacy of whatever you want to call it. I'll sum it up later. That we did not consolidate and send troops as we pursued our international border and put troops there and consolidated and established. When you buy a small plot 40 by 40, you will put a fence on it. But a country of ours, 3.2 million square kilometers, we didn't send about 2,000 or 10,000 troops on the border in order to consolidate. Can you beat it? And now we are paying the price for this greatest lapse. Second thing I want to reiterate. In 1954, in Trade and Protocol, we agreed Tibet is a part of China. When we agreed and gave such a large strategic concession to China to make Tibet invaded, annexed area, when we considered and heralded it as a part of China, least what it could have asked from China is our Indo-Tibetan border will be the Sino-Indian borders. We didn't even do that because we didn't know where our borders are. I don't know whom to blame. All our fellows are have to take the blame for not consolidating. Rather, the difference was not there in Nehru's mind only. I do not want to reiterate what he had told Robert Lockhart and all that stuff. So due to which, and the army was getting reduced, the budgets cut, army officers' pay cut, the army not required. We are non-violent people, we are non-aligned people, we have no enemies in the world. Who will come to us? And just the political, the geopolitical, what you call, imagination and dreams, unreal dreams which we lived in. With this brief, now I'll start where the line lay. After that, we never talked about the border. The first note verbal we sent to China was on 2nd of July 1958 when the Chinese were seen in the Kurnat Fort area, that is north of Pandong Show. At Kurnat Fort, we found the Chinese. I will not deal with it. Another thing I want to tell you. Then the famous what happened was on 18th of October. Mark the dates are important. 18th of October 1958. India sent an informal note to the Chinese ambassador in Delhi. Informal note telling that your highway from Tibet to Xinjiang passes through our territory. And that highway was started in 55, built by 56, 57, it was over. And in 58, we sent that to not to Prime Minister of China, to show how small a issue it was. We sent an informal note to the Chinese ambassador by telling your border runs through our territory. Along with it, it also says a patrol which we had sent to that particular highway in August 58 has not returned till 18th October. So where is this petrol? This we tell now. China replies that fellows we have detained because they had intruded into 3rd November, they say, after 15 days, they tell that this petrol has been detained by us at it had reached the Chinese territory. They are being deported without alluding any other thing, it's Chinese territory. Now comes our famous, very matured, intellectual. I am not blaming everyone in the Ministry of External Affairs. Whoever were possible were writing this particular note on 8th November 1958. When China said it is our area and your petrol is being deported, our famous brains of South Block write this letter on 8th November, a note that yes, we agree that area is a disputed territory which we can deal separately. Firstly, when your Johnson's line is 100 kilometers to the east of Kurnat Fort, you yourself is telling that it is a disputed territory when China says it is their own territory. So who has added and given it a nomenclature of dispute? Not China, but you yourself. Means you yourself don't know what you are doing. This 8th November clinches every damn thing. So that is our state we are talking. Now, the more I say, the more a person's blood will boil. All these suited, booted fellows who never forget to wear a tie in the MEA. Not all, please. Once again, those who are involved in it. And on 20, and the letter goes on and on. 23rd January 1959 means another 2 months, 1.5 months, 2 months later. They say the area you are referring has always been a part of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of ours. Our patrols have been going all the time. We had built the highway since 56, 54, and 55, 54, and finished it by 56. So the strategy of jurisdiction says that what we have is ours because you are nowhere there. For last 2 years, even after completing constructions, you didn't even write a note. You didn't even know where it was. And now you are telling me what it is. So this is what our letter, because we ourselves call it disputed, it really put a shut up call to us, whether you like it or not. Then I will jump. There are a number of letters written by Nehru and Zhou Enlai and all. Now I move to 20th October 1959. On the 20th October, there was a patrol which went into what you call into the area near the Pangan Show and further to the north. At west of Pangan, Contra Pass incident. Contra Pass, Contra La incident. It happened on 20th October. A patrol went, it did not return, small 6 fellows with something. So a bigger patrol went next day. And the Chinese were in a dominating place. When this patrol came, they are waiting for it. They killed, and 17 fellows, including an officer of the police, got killed. 17 fellows were killed in one shot. There are different versions. They gave their versions that they came and tried to snatch our ponies, tried to snatch our weapons, and you know how the Chinese always say our forces did not have any other option but to defend themselves. and all. Actually, what happened? These fellows were detained. The earlier patrol was detained. They had occupied dominating heights. As they came, they ambushed and killed 17 of them. Now, when there was a different versions were flying through, on 7th November, now I come to your question. 7th November 1959, Zhou Enlai writes a letter that in future, in order to avoid such clashes, we will go 20 kilometers from our present positions. That was on 7th November 1959, behind. Even in Metmoon line, we'll go behind. Now I am only refer to the west. I will not refer to the east and all. And you will also go 20 kilometers from this line further, so that this area of no man's land will be done patrolled by the administrative and non-armed personals. That was what was told by Zhou Enlai. 7th November. Okay. Jawaharlal Nehru did not agree to that. He said, no, that 7th November, you hardly had any post. So what he wrote on 16th November is, our proposal is that we will go 20 kilometers behind your claim areas, and you go 20 kilometers behind our claimed areas. As a counter proposal. Our claimed area is still Johnson's line. They should go 20 kilometers. And your claimed area, whatever of 7th November, will come 20 kilometers behind. So that there is a vast gap of 100 odd kilometers, and there won't be. That was straight away rejected by Zhou on 17 December 1959 by trying to say that means you have not vacated any of your land, whereas we have vacated 33,000 square kilometers of territory, and hence this, your proposal, is not accepted. From then onwards, they are sticking to the 7th November 1959 line. Now, what happened? There was in April 1962, Zhou Enlai came on a visit to India, invited by Indians, of course. There again, he said that yours line, that line is we have what you call, it should be the 7th November 1959 line of actual control, and we will withdraw 20 kilometers behind, and you should also withdraw. Anyway, nothing came out of that meeting. Then after the war, 1st December 1962, Nehru makes his famous statement when the Chinese told that we'll go 20 kilometers from our 7th November 1959 line. He says it's a ploy to see that whatever you have captured becomes your own, because your bottom line is this LAC of 7th November. Whereas we do not agree to the LAC of 7th November because you had already advanced to that line by occupying our areas, and it was designed to gain possession of territory which you had captured, and hence not acceptable. And he also told, when the line went towards Singlung, Dera, Sanzunglung, and south and west of Spangorle, here no Chinese troops were there. So how have you drawn the line? So it was not acceptable to Nehru, even on 1st December, after the defeat of Indian forces. Even then it was not accepted. But Chinese always stuck to that. Whereas we gave a counter proposal, it should be 8th September 1962 line. Why did we take 8th September? Because our forward policy had culminated on 8th September 1962 by capturing establishing post in the forward area. And on 8th September, Dola post was physically attacked. So he told, till the 8th September line, both east and west, whatever our troops are, that should be our line of actual control. Whereas China insisting our 7th November 1959 line alone should be the line of actual control. So this was the dispute. It doesn't end there. Then there was a Colombo proposal. 6 non-aligned countries brought together in order to bring peace. And they, when they told go 20 kilometers behind Metmoon line, they again quoted the Chinese line, 20 kilometers behind you go. means Chinese prevailed upon them. And they were also agreed to many contests of India. And then it was agreed the Colombo proposals were accepted in toto by Nehru, by Indian government, which we should not have. Whereas China was smart, they said we will accept it only in principle. When you accepted the Colombo proposal in total, that means you have also accepted the 7th November 1959 LAC in toto. China has kept its leverage open and he told, no, I will not accept in toto. There are a number of reservations, but we'll accept in principle. So even in the Dotulam crisis, they told that they brought in this line, November 1959 LAC. And even now in September 2020, after that, we told, again they brought in our LAC is 7th November 1959 line. So that is the story from the last to the present of the 1959 LAC.
If I know the Chinese very well, sir, they might have every time they come for these meetings, they will have these letters ready for us to, for them to show it to us. Boss, you guys have sent these letters, so why are you creating trouble now?
Absolutely.
It's
Ultimately, yeah,
it's our fault, sir. There is no question about it.
yeah. So the why we are in such a situation are two or three things. The absurdities of Gandhian policy of non-violence, the conviction of that non-alignment is the real geopolitics in the present day world by Nehru is a conviction. And lastly, the calumny of the British, which they left by keeping such a big mess around us, has ensured that this country will be in war, in a crucible of hostility for perpetuity.
I guess that was their purpose, sir. So, we have always tried to understand why did the Chinese come here through an Indian perspective. As you said in the beginning part of this thing, that some people believe it's the infrastructure, some people believe it's in particular, the DSDBA road, some people say it's the Article 370, some people say it's the tough regime which is there, whole lot of things. You've written a very, very interesting thing that none of us have actually tried to look at it from the Chinese perspective as to what did they see of India and how did they see India reacting to such a situation, sir? What would you like to say about that?
Yeah, now I will, as I wrote in my article, I'll wear Xi Jinping's shoes and Mao's cap, and then see what it is. I'll speak like a Chinese now. In 1860, the Indian soldiers, along with the British army, came and destroyed our summer palace in Peking in the Opium War. It was literally devastated by the Indian soldiers, and we are actually amused and amazed how a slave country will serve their own masters in undermining another neighboring Asian country. How can a soldiers who serve the masters who have occupied their country and subjugating as slaves, and then they are propagating the masters' choice across the Asia? So they feel we really feel there is certain servility in the very mindset of the Indians that they have come with their forces. Though we think differently, that's a different matter. And we are always been a middle kingdom surrounded by barbarians like Mongolians, the Tibetans, the Xinjiang fellows, the Uyghurs, the Turkmenistan. All these fellows are around us. The Han core, we are the main centerpiece in the world. We are being looked after by that, and that protection was provided. And these were all subsidiaries. However, India was across the Himalayas, did not have any connectivity with us. Though now I speak as an Indian, though there is a Indian Tibetan cultural connectivity, where there is a same culture, there is a same that Buddhist Himalayan belt was the bonding between the India and the Himalayas. Our sacred places, Manasarovar and Mount Kailash were in Tibet. Their sacred places, Bodh Gaya and Banaras, were out here. So there was an exchange of scriptures, exchange. Entire Buddhism came from by a tutor called as Padmasambhava and all, went into the other regions in the Himalayan belt. So that is how, though the Chinese do not consider as a connect between India and China, but there was a connectivity between Tibet, which is an independent country, and India, which was under earlier independent and earlier conglomerate of this states with Tibet. And India, if you really see, is a subordinate power to us. You know how Nehru was pleasing us every time. Even when we annexed Tibet, other than giving a protest note, he did nothing. Even when the United Nations wanted to discuss the annexation of Tibet in the United Nations General Assembly in December 1950, a move sponsored by El Salvador, India ensured that particular discussion did not take place by trying to please us by telling that we'll sort it out with China, we'll not talk on this issue. So India was so much helping us. It was so much subordinate to us. And even in 1959, when there was a revolt and when we killed liquidated 87,000 Tibetan reactionaries and helped Tibet to embrace communism and relieve them from the serfdom, even that time, India, though did talk about it, but abstained from voting in 1960 against the Chinese interest. So India was so good to us, servile, appease. They were falling over heels in order to appease us. And again in 1965 war, we threatened them that we'll occupy, and we concentrated forces, and they vacated Jalapla Pass on the Sikkim range, Donkaila range, which is in our possession due to our threat. We did not lose a single soldier, we did not fire a single bullet, and the Jalapla Pass is in our hands. Their VIPs also have a second thought to come to our southern Tibet, which they call it as Arunachal Pradesh. So they are afraid of us in every way. Do you know? For so many years, they did not construct infrastructure and road on the Sino-Indian border, thinking that we will attack them. So their infrastructure is absolutely ancient. We have developed so well. They have, for about 40, 50 years of independent India, they did not develop their infrastructure on the Sino-Indian border. So, and also the Congress party has been very, very sympathetic to us. Our Communist Party of China and the Congress party have had a symbiotic relationship with the MOU signed in 2008. And hence, with such fine coordination which we have, and our comfort level has considerably decreased since the time the NDA has come. So Chinese, and also they say Chinese, our infrastructure in Tibet is far better. We are coming in a plateau of 11,000 feet, 1,500 kilometers before the border. And these fellows have to come from 100 feet and come to those 5,000 meters within 200 kilometers of distance. They have a tenuous lines of communication and very, very sinuous roads, which is very difficult. And terrain wise, we are at a great advantage. And adding to at the combat level, we are always happy to have ITBP between our PLA and the Indian Army. There is a police force there, so we can always, they are also good, but we can always browbeat them. And also the combat information which comes to the Indian Army is much later, because ITBP is under the Home Ministry. So even the organizational structure ensures that the Indian Army's level of awareness is limited or become late due to the presence of this sandwich in between us, the ITBP. See how we warded off them not coming into the Depsan for over 1 year by just not blocking them. So there is and also another thing I want to really feel. In 1962, after we have defeated and really humiliated them, their MEA is, Ministry of External Affairs, is very scared of us. After their audacity in occupying the Kailash range, which they call Kailash range, which we call Moldo Heights, Wang Yi, our foreign minister, had a meeting with their foreign minister in September 2020. And you see how we really made a what you call made him sign the 5 points agreement, which is only old and tired shibboleths, where there is nothing new. Every part of it was completely violated, and we also shifted equal, if not more, blame on him for the present situation, which he signed and went away. When everyone knows it is we who started it, but he agreed in that mutually we have to do something in order to bring peace. Means he has taken more than half the blame on his own part, on his own country for this. So this 5 point agreement is a, and also we told him that in our opening statement, it's only the person who wants a meeting comes and meets us. It is the foreign minister of India who came and met Wang Yi, and not Wang Yi met the foreign minister. It also shows that how we can manipulate their Ministry of External Affairs the way we want. You look at the way what it was. Their generals, unfortunately, are a bit difficult to deal with, but their Ministry of External Affairs are all play ball with us. See the both the meetings we had in mid-December and mid-March. In both, we delinked the Depsan from the present controversy. They can we conveniently told him that the Depsang is a old problem and we'll deal with separately. And these fellows agreed. And now we have got Depsang in our hand and we have taken them down from the Moldo Heights. What else you want? The key which was in their hands, now the key is in our hands. Though obviously we have vacated from finger 8 to finger 4 and Sirgap we have vacated, but that's okay. But our main Depsan, around 1,200 square kilometers of Depsan, which they used to patrol. Is now you see still the keys are with us, and now they are begging us for a meeting, and we are taking our own time because the key is in our hands. We will choose the time and place of a meeting as we want. So that allowed what you call that delinking the Depsang has been one of the master stroke by our diplomacy, which we can always achieve with the Ministry of External Affairs. Why it's a old problem? We have made it a old problem, and they have played into our hands. Then now we have suggested instead of three-star general, a two-star general will do. Again, they are considering it. See, we are delaying. And after we have also agreed for the next meeting of military commander. And what we do is we'll take we'll take another 4 5 months to disengage from Hotspur and Gogra Heights and all. But ultimately, when every disengagement, if at all, takes place, we will not talk of Depsan. By the time they have not been visiting Depsan for over past 2 years, and this permanency and this status quo would be a very advantageous to us because Depsang is our own and India has to lump it. That's all. And then also when they publish their map, they thought they are smart, but we ensured that Nepal also activates a very dormant dispute on the Kali Nadi. And they also may have passed a bill by ratifying their new borders. Now, India is to deal not only with the border disputes with Pakistan, with China, now they also got a Nepal to deal with. See how nicely we have manipulated India. And presently, with the COVID virus, everyone is blaming us. We are under fire. So this is not the time to really negotiate. We can delay another 6 months, 1 year, slowly have dealings with them, and then self depths on. And what is the message we are trying to give to India? It's that we are in a different league. You are not equal to us. Z has spoken to Modi on his own terms. He may also speak to Modi on his own terms in future. There are nothing called as two great nations. In Asia, there is only one great nation. Unfortunately, the script did not go fully as planned by them because they really did not think that so much of a mirror deployment which we will do. So, to perpetuate the present status quo would be in their interest. And to break the present status quo will be in our interest. Now, when the script has not gone well with the present status quo, in order to keep his prestige, he will try to salvage a success out of the present status quo. How will he salvage the success? By keeping Depsan for himself and making your access to Depsan not available to you for times to come. That means the Depsan entire plains of about 1,000 square kilometers will become his. So that's how. Now, whatever we are in favor of what we have done, we are threatening the DBO road, we are threatening the short bridge, we are threatening the DBO airfield, we are threatening the DBO post, we are threatening his access to Karakoram, we are threatening the eastern flank of Siachen by being where we are and not letting them further expand, further come on patrol. So, and we have made India vacate what they want, and we have retained Depsan, which we want. So, which they want has been vacated, which we want has been rainfall, has been restored. So all this has been done kind courtesy of this MEA and National Security Council and all. The lesser we contact their armed forces, the better it is for us. Is probably what China is thinking in terms when he looks at the entire situation which has developed from, let's say, April 2020 till now.
Very interesting, sir, because at the end of it, but one question, sir, do you think they factored in the response from the Indian Army and probably the collective will of the nation and the political establishment at that particular point of time to say enough, stop? Do you think they factored that in, or they thought that they'll be able to kind of, in the initial part of the standoff?
Very, very good point, Adi. See, they had a taste of India's resolve under the present regime in 2017 in the Dokulam crisis. We call it Dolam actually, Dolam crisis. But actually, they circumvented us there. Though we stopped their road from Batandla to Jamukhin, they further went towards the east from Chinchela along the Tonsa River, the Tonsa Nadi, Nala. They made the road in the eastern part of Dokulam. So the entire Dokulam is with them actually, other than the western part where we resisted. So they have captured that portion of Bhutan. As you rightly said, they really did not expect when they moved their 6 mechanized div and 4 motorized division with armor, arty, everything, that we can really mirror that deployment. Because looking at our state of communication, the acclimatization that we require, and the length of the logistics which we have to carry right from the plains of Punjab right up to top, that's the place where they did not expect the massive deployment by the Indian armed forces, almost mirroring whatever they did. We mirrored it on this side. So that is the place where they felt that they have gone wrong. Now the collective will of the people is always there, but there are enough liberals, enough opposition parties who will keep on criticizing whatever the government does.
Yeah.
And there are enough of us, our fellows, our detractors within the nation, in order to undermine the nation. But obviously, you are right. They failed to anticipate the military response and probably the will of the government, because for once we have displayed a very, very strong will in order to say that we'll stand up to what we feel is right.
As a matter of fact, yes, I agree with you. Even with Pakistan, which is more of a nuisance, we've never displayed this kind of a will that we displayed with China, which is a fairly large power in this region. I mean, it's militarily, they're obviously much superior to us. Sir, one thing one notices as time has gone by in this standoff, last year it was basically troop to troop. We started showing off our Air Force. They did it, but not very well. As a matter of fact, I expected the Chinese to do a bit better propaganda about their PLAF, which they couldn't really do that well. Having said that, from the beginning of part of this year, one notices that the Chinese have built up about 24 heliports across the entirety of the line of control. They have built hardened shelters for their aircraft in Hotan, in Kashgar, and Changlemo in the east, and everything like that. They also have brought up, their versions of their copies of the S-400s in this region. Now, there are two questions I have to ask you. One, have the Chinese realized that, they've kind of poked the elephant in the eye and the elephant is going to get mad now? And they might just be in a position of weakness militarily. Two, uh, you know, militarily, again speaking, the Chinese now, whatever said and done, whatever position that they are in and we are in today, whoever has the advantage, one thing that the Chinese will have to do is that they'll have to keep these two and a half divisions that they've got in eastern Ladakh permanently there, because they also know one thing, that yeah, if we remove these two and a half divisions, these damn Indians will climb up and they'll come this side. So they, what I'm trying to drive at is, have they kind of, misjudged the military activity somewhere, apart from judging the will and the response from the Indian Army?
Yes, you have a point there. But I want to say there are enough military regions to take care of the eastern sector. Let's say the Taiwan side, the Japan side. There is the eastern theater, there is a northern theater, there is a central theater, there is a southern theater. All these four theaters are actually looking to the east. If you really look, what is looking towards the west is only the western theater.
Western theater.
Even the southern theater is going down and all, it is looking towards southeast of China. So the troop level in terms, in order to contain the two, in order to tackle the two front, what they have to tackle, is there adequate with them? And two divisions for about what you call the 2.5 million army is affordable in order to. And also now, presently, as I have heard, only the Lanzhou military region has deployed its troops. Might be air force and missiles and all which have come from other military regions as well in order to reinforce. But the troops have come from only the directly responsible military region, that's the Lanzhou military region. You are 100% right in terms of that shelters they have. And also one more thing which you told, which I should not miss out, is that they have what you call uh, brought in fresh troops and relieved the old troops in order to see that the troops are rotated. This troops rotation only means that earlier troops were tired, though we take around 2 years in high altitude for them to this one. They have done it within 1 year and they have brought in fresh troops. They have built shelters, they have built staging areas, they have brought up their artillery, they have brought up their surface to surface missile system. Their entire missiles are embedded in the hills. Silos are there, and their highways are, from the western and the eastern. The railway line is coming from Sidatse further towards the western side. And they have built three more airfields, Burang, Munze, and Tingri. Burang is one which will affect the Ladakh region. It is at the tri-junction between India, Nepal, and China. It is there, Burang. And Gargunsa is already there, which is there at Sitwane. So Sidatse has got another airfield called Tingri. So the number of 5 airfields, old airfields, 3 new airfields, the railway lines, and all the logistically, they are very, very well balanced, firstly. And we look at us logistically, how difficult for us to really feed. Though we have bought up the Manali access, which is absolutely one of the game changers in reinforcing and ensuring that there is what you call a strength by which we can pump in forces and maintain them logistically, even in the worst of winters. So we have also done our bit. But all said and done, ours is road communication. Easy is rail coming almost to that place, not fully. So he is to be frank with you, logistically, he is in a much better position to change troops, to bring in reinforcements. And in terms of troop mobilization of troops, if he wants to do. he is in a better position. Let us be. But what we have done is our troops are already mountain trained. I don't think a person in Beijing, what you call central region or northern region or eastern region will be any match to our troops now, who are actually fighting. That is our what you call our strength. So after having your headlong experience at Dokulam, where we did not relent, he is also knows now that he has to be careful with India. Next is we have also, if you read, we have bought the new boats in Pangong Show in order to do the motoring in the entire way. Our new boats have come. And we are giving a reply by reply. We are also reinforcing our troops, our resources. What we need to really look into is the where we have to look, where we should be alert, where should we have counter. Is countering the swarm drone technology. The swarm drones all can be small drones with the 200, 300 grams of explosive. They can come over a hillside, which has got a what you call a sensor. Now, a thermal sensor which will see the warmth and hit that particular body of a human being. Or during the visual side, it can be see any movement and a small Doppler there. The moment they can hit. With these type of things coming in, what is India doing is a thing which keeps me a bit. I'm sure, but our generals and all our company commanders, our battalion commanders, our commander level are so competent and so committed that I'm sure they are looking at these things how to go about. That is one thing in terms of technology. We have to beat China or at least compare China or at least ward off its technological threats which may manifest. That is one thing where there is no bottom line for India. It has to be done. There is just no compromise which we have to do. Now coming to eastern sector. Eastern sector, I do not envisage Taiwan to attack China. So the initiator of a conflict in the eastern sector will have to be China. China has hyped that in that 100th anniversary of Communist Party of China, it's sending the aircrafts into that air defense zone of Taiwan, sending the naval ships into their waters. They have hyped it quite well. And they have hyped it by telling to say we are tackling India also to show how viable, how indispensable is the Communist Party of China in not only elevating the 800 million from the utter poverty to the lower middle class, and also tackling all international threats which are emerging. That is the message which is given to the Chinese people. Here we are. Xi Jinping has done it in last 8 years. He is the one who has done, and we'll get time. See, this is the hype which they have created. But to my view, with the present situation, though the Biden has already taken Prime Minister Suga and President Moon, they have both visited and they have formed a deep alliance that Taiwan Strait will not be violated. You know that. Biden has come in a big way. The Quad has come. Quad Plus has come with France, Britain, and Germany. They also come there. So Eastern scenario is not very good for China. Plus, the pandemic which has raged, I think, with its predatory economics, neo-colonialism, putting the smaller countries across the world in a debt trap, and then extracting their pound of flesh in terms of servicing of their loans. It is one of the most unpopular country, and their wolf warrior diplomacy. It has really become one of the most hated countries in this world today, whether we like it or not. The entire world opinion is not in favor of China due to the pandemic and all, weekend, the intimidation, threat, the BRI, death traps, and all which has offered. But at the same time, to domestic galleries, he's shown that I will go into Taiwan. Taiwan reunification has to be done, and all this is being hyped. You take it from me. India, China is, I had spoken earlier also, is always awaiting strategic opportunities to do an offensive. Now, in 1962, they came when the missile crisis between between Khrushchev and Kennedy were there. They were about to, that's the time. South China Sea, they came when the Soviet Union had vacated the Campbell Bay from Vietnam, and Philippines had stopped the Subic Bay and the Clark Bay of U.S. Air Force and naval bases. That particular under what you call mutual understanding was not renewed.
Mm.
And when there was a vacuum in South China Sea, they found the strategic opportunities to do the creeping invasion of South China Sea. So everywhere, wherever they have gone. Now the Usuri incident which happened in 1969 with Russia. Do you know when they sorted it out? After 91, after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, they tried to have, means they have done all this by seeing the strategic opportunities in this world. At present, China is in such a weak position in terms of strategically. It is most unlikely to go into Taiwan and start another conflict.
Mm.
Now, it is what it is doing in India is for a long haul. The status quo is in its favor. You have come down from the Moldo Heights or Kailash Range. So it is in his favor. So he will let the status quo to become a permanent feature. Once it becomes a permanent feature, then they have already taken the Depsan Bulge. So this is his overall strategy, and that what he's doing and all is against Taiwan is only for others to show and to for playing to the domestic galleries.
That's a very interesting point of view. So I must say, there's a lot of thought process that has gone by your end to come up with something like that, and it's obviously come because of a lot of research, and I'd like to really congratulate you on that, sir. Sir, for my last
Thank you.
question with you, I'd like to ask you now. You mentioned the bone of contention, which is Dapsang. There are three major areas: Gogra, Konkala area, of course, and the Dapsang area, where there are currently face to face. Of course, the Konkala Gogra hot springs area is pretty far away from any strategic point of ours, which is the DSDBO road and any other posts of the Indian Army and stuff like that. But having said that, the Depsang is very close, and it is we know now that the troops are at about 500-meter range from each other, and it's not a eyeball to eyeball, but it's, I would say, binocular to binocular sort of a range where they are in front of each other, sir. I'd like to know what is your opinion as to how should we now try and sort out this situation, because at the end of it, to put through our although our troops are pretty hardy and they won't have much of a challenge going through another winter in that area. As a matter of fact, it'll toughen them up and it'll be actually good for our armed forces. But how do we move them out from there?
See, this has to be tackled generally when we talk of such things, Aadi, we only talk about militarily. We have to use the comprehensive national power of the country and use all our instruments of national power in order to vacate. If our political aim is to ensure our patrolling rights in Depsan Bulge, Depsan Plains, and then wherever PP 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, wherever these PPs are there, we should make it into our posts. Patrolling come in means the area is vacant. That's what exactly happened. Now, for the past 1.5, 2 years, you are not going beyond your PP9 to 10, 11, 12, 13, which are 18 to 20 kilometers away. So that much of plain you are losing, isn't it? So if that is our aim, we have to use all our instrument of national power. First, I will tell you diplomatically. Diplomatically, India has been taken for granted by China. When we did Article 370 and then that Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, China went up to the United Nations in order to have a discussion on it, and a what you call a closed door session was held against J&K. You know that? Huh? This is the way that China responds. Now let us see how we have responded, how we should respond. We should say that we don't believe in one China policy, we believe in two China policy, and start active cooperation of Taiwan without recognizing Taiwan. First tell that. Huh? Yeah, this one means you have to pursue in all power. Only military, it's not. Then what you say? You have to say we are very much interested. We have lost so much of billions of dollars due to coronavirus. It is most essential that where is the origin of virus? It has to be found out, whether it is a lab or otherwise. It is most important for us in order so that the future pandemic doesn't ravage the world. Australia is telling it. Not a word from India. Our timid, docile fellows are sitting silently looking down in the south lot. Why are you not telling that? This is the. Then why are you not condemning the HR abuses in Xinjiang? 1 million, our fellow Muslim, we have got one, we are so many large Muslim population, 140, 150 million. Our 1 million of them, our Muslim brothers are there under incarceration, under re-education camps. Their fertility ratios are coming down. Why are we doing it? And why are we not? And why are we not racing with the OIC? For a drop of a hat, you criticize J&K, what is happening when you know a democracy is flourishing in J&K, and when your own brethren are being incarcerated, not one statement from the 56 Islamic countries of the OIC. What is happening? So these are the points we have to deliver. Next time OIC says anything, we need to tell them, please keep your mouth shut. Unless you do it to them, don't talk to us. Come and see J&K, what is happening. Isn't it? Huh? Then also human rights in Tibet. We have to play our Tibetan card very well. Recently on the 23rd June, there was a webinar held between the foreign minister of India and foreign minister of Portugal, who was representing a part of European Union. Now look at, I will tell you the 3 points told by the Portuguese foreign minister. He is Professor Augusto Santos Silva. He says, 3 things we cannot accept of China: HR violations in Xinjiang, squeezing of democracy in Hong Kong, cannot accept the current status quo in South China Sea. China is a rival and competitor. And our foreign minister, docility, timidity, absolute silence, not a word against China. Hurry, a country is coming and telling you, European Union fellow. See, so you have been taken for granted. I told you about that earlier letter. We ourselves tell it's a dispute. Now here we say Depsan will deal it separately. What is happening? See how they called us in 5-point agreement with the Prime Minister Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Jaishankar. Jaishankar meets Wang Yi and takes all the blame, or if not, at least 70% of the blame for the present situation that happened in September 2020. So, with a timid foreign policy, and Penpa sharing the new Prime Minister Kalim Talun of Tibet,
right,
boost him up, give him a diplomatic status. Next is we have to cement our relations with Russia. Don't give away. And also try to bring in cooperation between the US and Russia. If we can do it, China is absolutely isolated. If Pakistan could bring together, in Nixon's time, USA and China together, why can't you at this point of time bring Russia and Biden together? Once Russia comes into a neutral, may not be pro-US, in the neutral zone, there is no one in the world who is supporting China other than North Korea, Cambodia, and Iran probably. So we have to isolate make all efforts to isolate and never lose our clout, our traditional friendship with Russia and Putin. Now, there are a number of things, but let me deal economically. We are already doing it. We had a 55 billion to 60 billion trade surplus the Chinese had. Now it has come down to $45 billion surplus, the latest figures. Activate domestic procurement. You must have read today's newspaper. CSIR has been told that 56 active pharmaceutical ingredients of the active drugs have to be manufactured in India to see that our dependence on China is not there. Reduce our dependence on China, and debt-trapped countries are also feeling the pinch. Join Biden's initiative of Build Back Better for the World, B3W. Join it. Don't hesitate. You are all hesitating looking at China. What will China think? Our foreign policy is weak. Our foreign policy is docile. Our foreign policy is timid. We are not, because that is basically because our foreign policy framers have not seen the topographical terrain. They have no idea what the international borders, how the terrain looks like there. Due to which they go and say, okay, Depsang is separate issue. We'll tackle it separately. It's an old issue. We'll tackle it separately. My dear, they have come into these heights. Why are you not bargaining it with them? Secondly, they do not know how an armed forces operate. What is the strength of our armed forces? What is the power? What is their capacity? How much you can rely on them? Have we ever let them down? Other than in 1960, where they let us down? So they do not have. Without this, they think their only way is to avoid a conflict and bend down and avoid a conflict. So these fellows are not really that, do not know how to wield. What is diplomatic power? To wield the comprehensive national power of our country in order to gain, pursue our national interest. Failing which, you can use other weapons like political patronage, economic blockades, science and technological embargoes. All these are a part. And lastly, the military action, your capability. They have to utilize this. Are they doing it? No. So what you call militarily. This is what means there is a lot to be done economically. We have to do. Now, militarily, what we should do. Firstly, we should not accept the status quo. We should maintain the force levels. Give the best to our troops in terms of weapons, equipment, technology. Be on it, absolutely. Give them the best technology in order to or what you call defend against the swarm drone technology. And we have to link up with the Depsan PPs, petroleum points. Without that, we have lost. So we have to invoke the border defense cooperation agreement, where I'll tell you, where it clearly says no trailing of patrols. Means if my Chinese patrol comes up to Leh, we are not supposed to trail them and say it's disputed. Then why the hell are you not going into the Depsan? Article 6 of the BDCA says that we will, in areas of dispute, we will not trail the patrols. Tail the patrol means follow you. Here, let alone tailing, they are stopping you, blocking you. So, when I invoke this, first I invoke a legal warfare to say that we will go into the areas of differences as per BDCA signed in 2013 October October by you, where we will go into the area of dispute. You will not tail us, and we'll go into our area. If you are blocking us, it is violating that agreement, and we'll have the power to remove that obstruction the way we feel. Okay, I will not deal on smaller tactics. What should be done? So if you have got you are supposed to, as per the BDCA, and the size of the petrol is not mentioned in BDCA. Take a company petrol from, let's say, PP9 and go to the PP10. They say don't trail us, this is a petrol. So prepare a legal warfare by trying to say legalize and tell them, and then start doing it. military tactics I will not deal with. So there is a need for us, and put the ITBP under the army straight away. Please don't fight your turf wars. It is required for the sake of the nation. Who will tell the Home Minister? Who will tell the NSA? Who will tell the Prime Minister that this is essential requirement in order to have a integrated fighting which we need to do in Ladakh? Then there are and other military this one. When we are doing this, we should be prepared for an escalatory ladder. The violence may increase. So that has to be put. RT should be in place, missiles should be in place, our tank should be in place, all things should be in place, ready, and this is the time we have to assert our patrolling rights to our hitherto areas where we are going. That is our aim in Depsan. Otherwise, we'll lose it. Status quo is helping the enemy. Now there are strategic cards which we need to play. These are clandestine strategic cards. We should see that the revolt in Tibet is there. 7 million Tibetans are there. So we have to instigate the Tibetans, drop weapons, drop initiate whichever the freedom movement. Do the same in the Xinjiang Uyghur region. We have also got a common border with them across the Karakoram Pass. So, initiate and see that the freedom movements of the ETLF, East Turkmenistan Liberation Front, and any other Tibetan organization is given the fuel to that fire we have to give. Drop weapons, give moral support, give diplomatic support. Then also form a union of lower riparian states of Tibetan rivers. Tibetan rivers like the Indus, the Sutlej, the Irrawaddy, Salween, Mekong, all are originating from Tibet and coming to number of countries. Now China is constructing dam over that great bend of Brahmaputra at Namcha Barua. That will adversely affect India and Bangladesh. Similarly, if the lower riparian states like the Pakistan may not join us, but India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Burma, Myanmar, Thailand, then Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. All these lower riparian states, we join up and tell, please ensure that the water flow from the upper riparian state to the lower riparian state is ensured and there is no obstruction. A collective organization which India can form in order to see that we have a viable voice with China when he starts damming the river as it is prone to do now.
Yeah.
Support to Taiwan, just like China propped up Pakistan with nuclear and missile technology, we should also prop up Taiwan clandestinely with the missile and nuclear technology. Once nuclear bomb comes to them, there is no way they can force their reunification of Taiwan. We didn't do anything different. What they did to Pakistan, we'll do it to Taiwan. That's all. There's nothing. So take the same lesson, a textbook lesson. Kit 4 designs were given to them. A Lopnor 90, there was a missile the test which was conducted in Lopnor by getting the Pakistani scientists. We will do the same script to Taiwan and see that missile and nuclear technology is with Taiwan. Then also Southeast Asian states, which we should get them in the Quad, like the Vietnam. Why not? Indonesia, why not? Their Natuna Sea is being this one. Philippines would be very eager to join. Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia, plus Quad 4, plus Quad 7, more countries will join. And work to isolate China from Russia. So with all this combined power of diplomacy, economics, military, and strategy, we should use it as a forced weapon against China to show that India's national interest are enshrined and protected and defended.
Fantastic, sir. I think this is a very, very round-up sort of an approach where we are going to be approaching China from all directions. I mean, I don't think they would even anticipate India doing something like this. And we can. It's not that we can't. We just gave a kick to the European Union with regards to vaccination. They told us your
Yeah.
vaccines are not allowed. We said, fair enough, your vaccines aren't allowed here as well. So I think this is something that India needs to become. This whole business of being this soft, polite Indian has to continue, yes, but they should also know that that soft, polite Indian also carries a long sword which can take off somebody's neck if it's required. I think the Gorkha
Yeah.
attitude needs to be built up within our diplomacy, and I think our diplomats need to carry the kukri with them, and they need to go through Gorkha training and or something like that. I mean, jokes apart, it is a very important thing that Indian strength is shown to China. It is not. Just the military strength, it is the overall strength within the country. As a matter of fact, as the general mentioned, that the Chinese have the balance of deficit has reduced, and that is because of the country getting together and saying, "Hum Chinese product nahi lenge." 43 to 60% Indians this time did not buy anything from China in the past 1 year. So you can imagine the kind of dent they've gone through. We banned their apps. We have done stuff, but the whole thing is, I think. A concerted effort and a strategy plan needs to be made and followed to make sure that the Chinese are brought to their knees, not just militarily, but overall with regards to all the power that we've got around the place. And of course, finally, I'd like to mention it was heartbreaking to listen to the story that the general told us in the first couple of questions. When I asked him what is the validity of the 1959 line, it was completely heartbreaking. I think we, as the younger generation who's going to be taking the mantle forward, it is important for us to know our history, to know the mistakes that we've made so that we don't make it again. Thank you, sir, for this enlightening talk. I must say that anybody who's going to see this is going to have his pants on fire. And it is something that we all need to know and need to practice on a daily basis to keep China away from our hair. Thank you once again, sir, and Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, Aadi. Jai Hind to you.